When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and as promised, every week we bring some amazing guests, and I sprinkle in, some solo episodes now and then, but I love to bring experts in their field that are just like blowing up the scene, and Michelle Nedelek is our guest on today's show. And I'm so excited to interview her, not only because of her love for business and strategy, but just because when you really dive in to understand more about Michelle today, you're going to be like, what doesn't she do? This lady is absolutely amazing. She has so many years of experience, and I'm excited to be able to share that and have her, on our show to share her wisdom with you today. So if you are thinking about starting a business, if you currently own a business, no matter what size that is, we're going to give you some strategies today that you can take from today's episode and apply it directly to your business and, the steps that you have been taking, and maybe think about strategy in a different way. But before we do that, I want to thank the sponsors of today's show, Animated Holiday Lights. At our company, we're dedicated to transforming spaces into extraordinary wonderlands through our expertly crafted permanent light installations. With a team of skilled professionals and passions for spreading joy and cheer, we strive to create captivating light displays that leave a lasting impression, and you never need to climb a ladder again. Our lights can dance to music, any song, any color, any holiday. From residential homes to commercial properties, our permanent light installations are designed to enhance the beauty and festive spirit of any location. We take pride in our attention to detail, using high-quality materials and advanced techniques to create stunning visual experiences that surpass expectations. Join us on this magical journey as we bring the holiday spirit to life through our dancing permanent light installations. Explore our portfolio and see the transformative power of our work. Visit animatedlights.com today and let us create an enchanting holiday experience that will leave a lasting impression. And I just have to vouch and say, I have them on my house and I love them. I think they are the best. And in fact, my husband and I have won awards in our community for the light shows that we put on every year. So I think it's been the best invention ever, and I'm so thankful that we have them as sponsor on today's show. So thank you, Animated Lights. All right. Now we're going to talk about Michelle. She is a best-selling author, an international speaker, and the co-founder of Awareness Strategies, her digital marketing tech company. As a company, they help driven entrepreneurs to add $1 million to their revenue through the 4 pillars of scaling: strategies, systems, support, and state of mind. Ooh, I love that. Please welcome Michelle Nedelek. How you doing, Michelle?
And the crowd goes crazy.
Yeah.
I'm doing awesome. Thank you.
All right. I love those 4 pillars. We should just dive right in, right? But I love everyone to get to know my guests a little bit. I can, talk for hours about why I am so passionate about business, why my husband and I now keep, launching more businesses, buying existing businesses. It just kind of becomes like this thing that becomes an addiction for us. Like we love growing and acquiring businesses.
I'm not into bags. I'm into businesses.
I'm not. I'm actually not. And that's so funny you say that, because I used to be into bags and shoes. Yep. And, the latest styles and makeup and all that stuff. And then I figured out all that stuff was costing me money, not making me money. And so I think this addiction is much more profitable for my family.
And I'm sure your husband thinks it's a little healthier as well.
He's like, thank you.
maybe, hopefully, as long as you're
not
doing
like
it right.
I ever asked him to pay for any of it, right? So,
I think that's a great testament to the fact that growing and scaling businesses does not mean more work. It means that you're doing things in a certain way that gets you a certain result. And when you're focused on the end goal, that you can do it all. But it takes a lot of forethought of, okay, what are we really doing here? And we're not just going to go head first into like a, forward line on a football team going, we're just going to smash right into them. You gotta have a lot of plays figured out in the back room before you go into that. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, I can't scale my business. I don't have enough time as it is. And it's like, well, then you're doing it wrong.
Oh my gosh. Michelle and I are twins, by the way. We figured that out. We look nothing alike. She's probably way taller than me because I'm 5'1".
From another mother.
Yeah, she's got red hair, but her and I talk the same language on everything. And it's so true. When someone says, I don't have any more time to scale a business, my first question is, okay, great. Let's discuss what you are spending your time on right now. Because I guarantee those actions that they're taking are the wrong actions. So when you talk about strategies, systems, support, and state of mind, I just love all the S's. Like it's the S's are like the major S's. But I got to back up because where did you gain this love? Mine was like 23 years ago, really in corporate America. I fell into a position that I was mentored through to working with business owners and launching businesses. So little by little, I just kind of got addicted to it. I fell in love with it. It was my favorite thing to do. It still is today. It really is. And then I, started acquiring them for myself and doing more personal with that and building my own businesses. But I loved helping other people build their businesses and launch them. So how did you get the bug?
Nice. Well, and first off, I am totally jealous and I will explain why momentarily. So when I was 23 years old, I moved to Inuvik in the Northwest Territories and I started not one, but 3 businesses. I do not recommend that to anyone.
Big alarm, like warning, don't do that. Yeah.
Don't do that. But I did learn a ton. And to some extent, we did have a bit of a business coach, if you want to put it that way, because we had loans for the business through what was called BDC, and they assign a coach for you. And it's like, okay, so what are your numbers? How are you going to do this? What are you going to do? And a lot of it was very much just touch and go and learn and talk to people and see what happens. So all of my entrepreneurial experience was homegrown and learned from the field, digging up the dirt and trying to figure out what a seed was and what does a seed need to grow. Like I knew nothing about business. it was that
and I don't think it was necessarily only because of your age, because I know people that have come from corporate America where they've maybe been in project management or, administrative services, or they've been on a team or whatever, and they don't have an ounce of what the strategies or the mindset or even the understanding of the basics. Right. So
business acumen is definitely a thing. And unfortunately, for the longest time, a lot of entrepreneurs with business degrees said like they're just not teaching it. All of this only applies to corporate. It doesn't apply to being an entrepreneur and building and scaling a business. And I think part of the problem is we need to understand that there's 4 stages of business. One is what I call a startup, and it's where you're throwing spaghetti against the wall, trying to figure out what works, trying to figure out what seeds you're planting, and what water is and what sunlight is and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's very much we just got to figure this thing out. Second phase is once you have something that works and you start to hone in on that thing that's working, then you can start to grow the business. Like, oh, water, oh, sunlight, this is great. Okay, this is working. Let's keep doing this thing. And then once you have a field of things that are working, then you can scale. Then it's a matter of just throwing money at the problem and you can buy more land, buy more seed, do the thing. Hopefully the metaphor explains itself. Yeah. And then you get into the exit strategy of, okay, how are we going to put this in somebody's hands that's going to be able to do something with it and take it somewhere, whether that's giving it to your children, whether it's selling it to your employees, whether it's starting a co-op, whether it's selling it to the Googles of the world. all of those are very different business entities of themselves, and they require a different frame of mind and different thought. And if it's done well, you actually have 4 different people running the businesses at those 4 different times. But I think we need to understand that that's kind of the fundamentals of the business. So if you're in those stages, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it is going to be totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should probably just let everyone that's listening know now, we do not recommend that you do it by yourself. I mean, even Michelle said, they gave me a coach. I've had mentors along the way. I've had paid investing in business coaches as well as free mentors, advice. And, for example, for someone, when I started my business, I needed to spread the word. When I started my community, my LEAP community, I needed to spread the word about networking and collaboration and visibility and exposure and promotion and the things that my community offered. The way that I did that was socially through networking online. And it absolutely worked out as a huge benefit because the pandemic hit and then everyone was online. So where, I was doing some things in person that was like moving slow. But then when I started doing more networking online and being in other rooms, that was when I found out if I have enough conversations and then actually offer the community and show them the benefit of how that can benefit them and where their needs are, then we had a win-win. And I would be able to get members. And so, once I had identified what it was, then I put so many hours on my schedule in a week. And that was what I did. And I think a lot of people back off sometimes too soon. Like when I have women right now that say, I just don't know how to get clients or I don't know how to, grow. And they're literally nowhere. They're not talking to people. They're not networking. I mean, my husband and I I've had a networking event Monday night, a networking event last night that was with the chamber, which was a different business of mine. Tonight, I'm going to another networking event on Thursday. It's like an event networking. So all my businesses require different networking. And I haven't had one night yet that I haven't, but they serve you food and you're around people and that's great. So you're eating dinner. But
I do like the theory of never eat alone. And in the theory of never eat alone, and it really, it's a good philosophy because you can always bring people to your home if you want to spend more time with your family and kids. Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss that. And they say, I don't want to have, strangers coming to my house. Well, 1, don't invite a stranger, invite business potential partners to it. And 2, it allows your kids to be able to see a whole different conversation. Yeah. And I think that entrepreneurial families have a huge advantage over what I had. I had a union dad that was an electrician. I had a union mom that was a nurse, and she quit and became a stay-at-home mom. They were awesome. My childhood was fantastic, but I didn't learn anything about the entrepreneurial world. Mm. And that's why I was super jealous that you had the mentors and that you had the corporate structure. I think is fantastic because you have a phenomenal budget compared to somebody that has nothing. No matter what your budget is, it's phenomenal compared to somebody that's doing it on a shoestring. And to be able to understand what it's like asking somebody for help, to give something to an executive assistant and to say, hey, can you do this? Can you run with this? What do you need from me to be able to? And you learn how to give directions. You learn how to delegate. You learn what's important for you to do. You learn what you like to do and what you're good at and what moves the pendulum forward. And then being able to take that. Whereas when somebody's just kind of going, oh, I did an opt-in, I wrote an ebook and nobody opted in for it. Now what do I do? It's like, well, there's a little more thought going in.
We're not laughing at you. I just want the listeners
just from my
to
personal experience. Yeah. I've done it so many times.
Same. And I really believe, and Michelle, you may believe differently, but I've had a lot of failures in things that I've tried, didn't work. I see those in, I'm a very visual person. That's the way I see. When I think about something, I see it in color and I see it in picture. So that's how I think. So I see it as these stepping stones. And every time I have failure, it's like another stone I can step on. It keeps, kind of stacking up this high rise that I'm standing on. And it's what gives me the vision. It's how I can see really kind of the bigger picture because we get so in the weeds and we're so tunnel focused. Do you feel that a lot of entrepreneurs you work with are very tunnel focus.
Absolutely. And they want things to be perfect. If they're like I was, it's like, I don't like being incompetent. I don't like not knowing what I'm doing, but I force myself to do it every single day and sometimes epically. So, doing things like just stupid stuff. I took my forklift operator's license just because I wanted to learn how to do it. I was never going to do it as a job. I just, hey, this will be fun. Let's go do this. Let's be incompetent
Michelle
for a while.
and I are so much alike because someone said, have you ever thought about, I used to go to boot camp all the time here in my community before COVID, and then it wound up shutting down. But before that, one of the instructors there, he's just a regular guy, that has his personal training license and teaches classes. And I loved it. And I would always help the ladies next to me or someone and tell them, shift your hips forward, or because I've been doing it my whole life. I know the proper forms and stances, right? Yep. And he said, have you ever thought about becoming a certified personal trainer? I'm like, yeah, I need another responsibility. Like I need a hole in my head. And then I was like, let me just look into that. So I bought the book, started reading it. And then it became a challenge to pass the test, to learn more about the body.
Yeah. And what people need to really understand is a scientist in a laboratory, if they're doing an experiment and it turns out exactly the way their hypothesis said it was going to turn out, they will do it 6 more times to try and break the hypothesis to figure out whether or not they just fluked out, whether or not they actually know what they're doing, or other things. So it's not about being perfect. It's not about getting it right all the time. It's about figuring out when it doesn't work, how do you fix those mistakes? Because as we all know with any employee, if everything's perfect, that's great, but they're not really an ideal employee. I want the employee that knows how to deal with things when they go wrong. And in order for them to know that, I need to know that. So you actually want to screw things up and figure out what do you want to do when that happens.
Have you heard of the book Who Not How from Dan Sullivan? It's a fantastic book. Okay, so Who Not How it's kind of funny because when they talk about it, it sounds like a Dr. Seuss rhyme, but they say to go find the who's in the business. Like, if you don't know how to write a book and, in your out there on stages, or you're teaching, or you have a philosophy, or you have a university, or whatever it is that you're running, and someone comes up and says, oh my gosh, you should write a book in this, this book that I'm reading right now. He turns to him and he says, you should, because the guy was a publisher. So he was telling the guy, you should totally write a book on this. I'm not going to write the book because I don't have the time. It's not my expertise. I don't know how to do it, but you are. So I think that this would be a good partnership, right?
Yep.
So finding the who's, I see a lot of businesses struggle and stagnate because the owner is trying to figure out how to do everything. And they're not putting the support, one of your S's of scaling, they're not putting the right support on their team and getting the right support, which we've covered already, like mentors and business coaches and those types of people. But now they're not putting the people on their teams. And what is the number one thing that you hear, Michelle, of why they're not doing that?
I can't afford it.
I can't afford it because that's their mindset, which is state of
you
mind.
Can't afford not to because you don't have a strategy in place. You don't know why you're doing it. You think it's a business expense that may or may not work out. And that's why I wrote those S's in that order is you need a strategy first and foremost. Second of all, you need the systems to be able to understand what they are. And you don't want to figure out how to make those systems. You want to figure out who, which brings us then to support and then to the state of mind of what kind of state of mind do I need to be in order to be able to bring this all forward. And oftentimes it's, okay, if I write a book, are you going to publish it? How much am I going to make? What kind of an audience am I going to get? Why am I writing this book in the first place? What is the long-term intention of it? And then deciding, okay, this is a good idea. The issue with most entrepreneurs is somebody says, you should write a book and you'll get more clients. Oh, okay, I'll go write a book. Oh, and you should need to be on Facebook. Oh, and you need to do Google ads and you need to do, and it's all tactics and nobody's kind of reining in their energy and going, okay, I need a strategy that is going to get me from point A to point Z. And I know what those steps are in between. Are things going to screw up? Of course they are. But if you're doing 20 million things, everything's going to screw up and you're going to feel like you're getting nowhere. Whereas if you can focus on those kind of the one thing that you need to do next, then, and you get good at it. And keep in mind, to get good at something, you're going to have to do it at least 6 times and you're going to screw it up royally. So if you do a masterclass, a webinar, or whatever it is, and you do it 6 times and nobody shows up, great. Run through it as if there's people there, record it, look at it. And how can I get better at this? Because at least you're making mistakes without somebody there that can write a check. And then once you do it the 7th time and people start coming to it, because now you've got the marketing for that, right? Now you're more polished. You're speaking more confidently. You know what comes next in the conversation. If technology blows up and you don't have your slides, you know what to talk about anyways, and you have a conversation about it, which will probably go better than the slides would have anyway. So there's a lot of prep.
I think we need to be real about it for a minute. Like, just let everyone know out there, you're giving up too soon on things and way too soon, because there is a natural organic progression of our expectations as a society because of everything that is instantaneously delivered to us. I will be the first to admit, last night I thought, oh my gosh, I need all these things from Costco, grabbed my phone, ordered them on my phone. They're going to be delivered in like 2 hours this morning. I don't even have to go to the store. I can record podcasts. I can return emails. I can have client calls, and they're being delivered to me. It's that easy for us to get our food. We don't have to go shopping. So that is a support system that I use in my business. I have someone that cleans my house. I have someone that takes care of Keep for me, my CRM, that takes care of building my sales pages, that takes care of my podcasts. I have people support that take care of all these things. Because of that, if I'm being real, the instant gratification, we tend to think I went out there and went to a couple networking events. I got 0 clients. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you want me to tell you how many hours of networking I spent in the beginning? Building the reputation, building the friendships, building the relationships, and then nurturing them. I can't tell you how many people I meet and I never hear from them again. I'm always following up with people constantly.
Well, and I'll give you a great story about it, because I was a chronic kind of 11th hour kind of quitter. And I realized that most when we went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and if you've never heard of anybody talk about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, if you've never done it, in the last kind of leg of the climb, it's almost a vertical climb, and you're going back and forth, zigzagging your way up the hill. And you start at midnight and work your way up until 6 a.m. Everybody's got a little headlamp on. So all you can see is pitch black all around you with these little dots ahead of you and behind you. And they go on kind of what looks like forever. And you climb for 6 hours straight. And it's up what I called snot rock. So you take one step up and slide down a foot. You take a step up and you slide back a foot. And you're constantly doing this, feeling like you're on, a step machine in the gym forever and not getting anywhere, because nothing visual is changing. At least on a stepping machine, the numbers on the front change. Nothing was changing. So at some point I go, okay, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm going back. And Brad looks at me and goes, you didn't drag me halfway around the world to stop now. And then I thought about it for a half second. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go back down. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to wait for him to go, and I won't have that. Like, it was really dumb. And it was literally halfway around the world to go and do this. So, okay, let's go. And our Sherpa goes, we go? And I'm like, yep, we go. So we go, we do it. We get all the pictures. We do all the things. I have my silly 6-inch stilettos at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro because, I had to bring my stilettos up there. And when I got back, I realized that when I don't get the feedback that I'm looking for, I'll put so much effort into it. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. But it's almost inevitably at that 11th hour. And if I just kind of go on that extra. And then, so now every time I go, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm not doing this anymore. And it's like, yeah, you are. And you're going to do it for another month. Yeah, you are. And you're going to do it for another 6 times. Yeah, you are. And you're going to do it for whatever the thing is, kind of proportionately, that I think I've quit on. And then miraculously, all of those efforts come up. It's like planting trees. You see nothing, you see nothing, you see nothing. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll quit watering it. Well, you can't quit watering it when it's a bud, because that's when it needs the water consistently. It needs you to be there to give it the light and the sun. in order to make it grow. Once it grows, that's the easy part.
That's the easy part. That's what I'm talking about. So, when women say, well, that's easy for you to say, Colleen, you have a community, you have a reputation. I'm like, when I was birthed out of the womb of corporate America, okay, when I was birthed out of that womb into entrepreneurship, right? Mm-hmm. You think I came with all of these amazing connections? I had a 2-year non-compete, couldn't touch my book. Those were all of my connections. Those were my clients. Those were everybody I worked with. And everyone in corporate America, they're not going to join a community for female entrepreneurs. They're not going to, hire me out here to, help them scale a business that they don't own, because they're in corporate America. So I have like 5,000 connections in corporate America. And I explained to everyone, I was birthed out into this entrepreneur world where it was like, meet the first person. Then that person introduces you to another person. You meet the next person. And then you maybe do some business with them or have some conversations, or they're like, oh, and I know a person that could help you with this. And then you get this opportunity. And it just starts snowballing, but you've got to keep pushing on the pedal. You have to show up. I remember when I decided if I'm going to grow this community in my business, I've got to leave corporate America to put full time in it, because I was working till 3 a.m. and getting up at 5 and starting over and, traveling and doing all that for months. And I was like, I can't do it anymore. And it scared everybody around me. When I said I'm leaving corporate America, they were like, oh my, I don't know. The ATM's gone. The kids were like, what are you going to do for a job? And some of my kids were like, just quit your job and become a regular grandma, like a real grandma. Because apparently I'm not a real grandma because I don't babysit their children all day. All my girls that have children, they're all entrepreneurs. Not one of them have a job. So none of them have to go to work, right? They've just raised their kids and ran their businesses and done their thing and made money. So I share that story because, just like Michelle, when she started her business, she didn't know what she was doing. And it was like, I've just got to take the first steps and surround myself with people that can give me a little direction, that have a little bit more experience than I do in this. So I always recommend hiring individuals that have the wisdom, the experience. Don't ever hire anyone that says that they can coach you and they've not created a successful business. Never. I say run the other way, right? Because you want them to have done it, and then they're able to teach you how to do it, which goes back to the number one S that you talked about, was strategies. And strategies, my gosh, that's a whole mountain of itself. That's the size of Mount Kilimanjaro for sure.
Well, absolutely. Because you can have online strategies, you can have offline strategies, you can have business growth strategies, you can have consistency strategies, you can it goes on and on and on. And really what it comes down to is, what is the end game? What do you really want to achieve in your business? Reverse engineer it, and then start building out that plan, and only that plan. And again, if it's not working, know that it's not working for a reason. And the only reason you know that that's not working for a reason is because you're consulting with somebody who's done it, been there, bought the t-shirt, and goes, oh yeah, your Google ads aren't going to convert for 6 months because Google needs to do all the back end stuff and figure out who you are and what, but it just happens that way. But if you don't know that, then you're stuck going, oh, but I put in the, $10,000 into it and nothing happened. Well, yeah. Because you didn't have the right strategy.
Right.
Somebody that knew what kind of expectations you can have. It's like writing a book is a fantastic strategy for building out your growth. But you want to work with somebody that knows what kind of book, who do you market it to, what kind of information needs to be in that book in order to achieve the end goal that you want to achieve. Don't ever put tactics in front of strategy, because it's not going to work.
That's right. So you got to come up with the strategy first. Then the tactics are the actions that you take to reach the outcome. And we just did this in our local community, because there's 96 leaders that have gone through, over the course of the last 8 years, have gone through these classes to become the leaders in the community as the HOA boards turn over. It's like a vision, right? So we took this event that we're having this Saturday 6 weeks ago and said, what is the outcome? Why are we getting everybody together? So you can take this and apply it to anything you do. If it's a church thing you're working on, if it's something in your community, if it's with your kids and you're looking at, a birthday party or whatever, what is the outcome that I want to have? What do I want them to feel? What do I want to happen afterwards? What do I want? Everything. to be, and then you reverse engineer it, like Michelle said, and then you put the tactics in of the little actions that need to happen leading up to it, and how we do that, and how we get them enrolled to want to come. What are those reasons? Measure everything to the outcome. You can do this with your goals too. When you set up your goals for the year, this is the one thing that I use with my clients the most, and a lot of times I'll just say to them, are these actions part of the steps that need to be taken? Have you measured it back to what your goals are? And then they're like, oh, well, like, I forgot about my goals. What?
Or they'll say things like, well, I just want 100 people at the event. No, you don't just want 100 people at the event. What kind of people do you want at that event? There's a huge difference between having a black tie affair at $500 plate than there is at just pulling everybody off the street and going, hey, you want a free meal? There's a huge difference. Who do you really want at that event? And what kind of mentality do you want them to have? Or what needs do you want them to have? What's the next step for them? You really want to drill down into the exactness of, and what does that mean for my next step? Because selling tickets at $500 plate is going to be totally different than putting out a sign outside of a building door.
Absolutely. I was like, I could get 20,000 women in this community if I invited them all in for free and just said anyone could be here, right? It doesn't make sense. Well, the only S we didn't cover was systems. And you and I are both like, okay, you don't have systems, please. I still don't even know today why anyone would email me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, send me your calendar link, because they say, let's set up a call. And usually I always send them mine, but every once in a while, when I know I'm full, I'll say, send me yours. They'll say, are you free on Tuesday at 3? I'm like, no, and this is not going to work, because we're going to have to go back and forth 50 times. So here's my link. Here's when I'm free, and find a time that matches when you're free, and we'll talk then.
Automation is a beautiful thing right now that can help so many areas. You mentioned Keep earlier, and I'm a huge love affair with it, because when your business becomes complicated to a certain degree, it does everything. One of the biggest things that drives me nuts, somebody will give me a calendar link and then it doesn't show up in my calendar. And I'm like, well, did I book it? Did I not book it? Do I get a link? Do I not get a link? How does this go down? And I want the experience for my peeps to be as streamless for them as possible, regardless of what they're used to. So if they're used to conversing with me on LinkedIn, then they have a link automatically on LinkedIn. If they're used to emailing, it goes to email. If it's on a calendar and they expect it to be there, it goes in the calendar. And there are systems that can do that for everything. And it's really understanding what is your ideal client's ideal experience and how do you facilitate that? How do you make it as easy as possible for these people to work with you, to talk to you, to spend money on you, and for you to fulfill with them? And then everything else kind of becomes irrelevant. And then you can hone in on what's the main thing that you're doing. You can always spider out from there, but don't start with a spider web. Start with a straight line, and it makes your life so much easier.
And y'all are lucky today, because it's what Michelle does. She has a lot of links for you at your fingertips for how to, connect with her on whatever social media platform you use regularly, as well as her websites. And she's got podcasts, several podcasts that you can go download: the Business Ownership Podcast, 7 to 8 Figure Speaker Series, the Little Blue Pill for Business. I love that one. Happy to Offend You, the Bad Girls on Business. These are some fun podcasts. So definitely go download them. What'd you say, Michelle?
Right. We have a blast with all of them. So if you are straight up for business, or you have a twisted sense of humor and you want to find somebody that can, flourish and blossom with you, we're good to do that too.
That's awesome. She has some special gifts for you today for a website audit. So that is available for you. And Stop the Leaks. That's cute. 7 common ways that business owners are losing money and how to plug them, because that means you're sinking. In case anyone didn't get that. So that is at awarenessstrategies.com/leaks. How do you like to be connected with directly, Michelle? Do you like people to send you a DM on platforms, LinkedIn? What is your preference?
I really don't have a preference. I accept all my emails. I answer my emails. Facebook. I'm at the point where I have people looking at everything. And when they say, hey, this is for you, I address it. So it's whatever works for you. Connect with me on that. And happy to connect.
That's great. There's a lot of resources here for every single one of you to be able to, start listening to her on a podcast. If that's your way of finding out information and learning, there's free downloads here that you can get a report on a website audit. You can go to her website at michellenedelek.com, awarenessstrategies.com. I would say at least subscribe to her YouTube, follow her on Instagram, all of the basic places where you're going to continue to get more information so that you can get to a point where you're making the decision. Do I have the strategies? Do I have the support? Do I have the mindset? Oh my gosh. Do I have the mindset? Are you using these 4 S pillars to scale your business? And if you're not, you can't scale your business. I should just be pretty straight up about that. You can't scale your business without
You can be in business, but you're not going to grow.
You can be in business. I love that. Yeah, you can have a business and say you're an entrepreneur and all of these things, but you're not really growing your business. And for me, I don't know about you, Michelle, but I got into business because I'm passionate about what I do. I love it. But I gotta pay for my Alaskan cruise I'm going on in a couple weeks. I gotta pay for my clothes that I wear every day. I gotta pay for all these new businesses that I'm buying. I'm motivated to make money,
Right. And I love doing it. And if I aspired to have an addiction to buying businesses, because I think that would be absolutely awesome.
And I'm telling you, Mount Kilimanjaro costs money to go fly around the world and go hike that sucker. So just sharing with everyone, if you have these bucket lists and these aspirations, then making money is not a bad thing, females, especially out there. Making money is a good thing. And I don't know if you've checked lately, but if you look at the statistics, we spend we have 85% of market spend in the entire world. Females do. Why? Because we're the ones that buy everything for the household. Like my husband didn't go on a Costco app last night and go in and buy, the groceries for the house this morning. I did. So we're the ones buying everything for the house. And so we have the highest market share for spend. So we need to be pumping out some revenue and profits,
Quick strategy, by the way, if you've noticed you're spending a lot of money on something, whether it's for your household, your kids, your whatever, look at starting a business in that arena. And then all of those become tax write-offs for you. And you can probably get it at wholesale. So if you're like, I don't know if I could run a business, you already are running a business if you're running a family.
Yeah. I don't care if you get in the fishing lure membership business, whatever it looks like, where you're sending 3 different fishing lures to people every month that are into fishing. You can start a business. My grandchildren are starting businesses because that's just kind of the new generation, right? They don't go get jobs. It's hard for employers to find employees right now. So
Michelle, I think entrepreneurialism is going to save the world. So go into business.
Entrepreneurialism is going to save the world. Any last words that you have, Michelle, before we wrap up?
I think that being an entrepreneur is the one thing where we have our self-actualization. It's the one thing where we have the liberty to be able to do what we want, when we want, where we want. And we have to figure out how to do it from an internal fortitude position, not what is the market doing? What are these things doing? And that's why I think that entrepreneurs are going to save the world, is because we quit looking at what they're doing wrong and we start looking at what can I do right here. And to me, that is the bravest thing you'll ever be able to do, because you're going to question every single one of your beliefs, all your family. They're going to think you're weird, and that's okay. Find a community of entrepreneurs that you can become part of their community, like Colleen's, just saying, because you're going to figure out, oh, this is actually normal and I'm right and this is good and I am moving forward. And yeah, it takes 6 months to be able to do this, that, or the other thing. It's okay. It's month 5, 1 more month, you can do it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Michelle, I just want to thank you for being an incredible guest. This podcast went long because we could talk for hours on business. We could just sit here and pound in all the strategies and support and everything you need. And the truth is, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. So do you want to be at the end of your life on your deathbed saying, I wish I just would have started my own business. I wish I just would have taken the chance to do something that I wanted to do different than living a boring life, or whatever it was, right? And for those of you that have a W-2 job and you absolutely love it, and it's your favorite thing, good for you, go for it. I think it's great, but there's so much growth that you can learn within that position. So continue growing yourself and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. The stuff that Michelle and I talked today about with her, getting her license to drive a forklift and me becoming a personal trainer, you can do that in a W-2 job. So do things that just excite you, that are fun, because you can. Because we live in a world where you have a lot of freedoms, especially in America. So thank you all again for joining us today. Michelle, you were an amazing guest. I appreciate all of you for making our podcast so popular and your loyalty and being with us. And again, I promise next week we'll have another amazing guest. Until then, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.